Welcome to Jurassic Park.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while?
Do you want to know what it is?
There's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Shepherds we shall be, for thee, my life, for thee.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
There's a special rug in hell reserved for people who waste good scotch.
He peed on my rug!
He peed on the dude's rug.
Do your worst.
Final report of the commercial starship Nostromo.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Welcome to your feature presentation, the podcast where we bring you the latest and greatest movies in pop culture. I'm your host, Heath Fall, and with me, the matinee maniac, Andrew McKay.
Hey, buddy. I'm glad that nickname is stuck around.
Yeah, it's
that's
cool.
The one we sifted and
Right?
settled on. I like that. Yep.
I keep trying to do like more M words, like manic, matinee, maniac, little tongue twisters. The
Animaniac McKay.
The misogynistic matinee maniac.
That's me. That's you know me.
If you know Andrew, misogyny is his middle name.
Yeah, man.
If your wife
McKay.
is cool with me saying that, so.
Well, we'll find out if she listens to the pod when she texts me about this.
Yeah, my wife. It's funny. She was keeping up with us. She's like,
My wife.
I'm not my wife. My wife. She was really keeping up pretty faithfully with the podcast. But then she's like, I'm not a movie fan, but I want to listen to it, and she's pretty behind right now. So I'm gonna get a text in 7 months, and she's gonna be like, Hey, I do listen to the podcast. Like
I sure do.
7 months. But my wife is pretty cool. You can see this neon sign. She got me that for Christmas. And I finally got the right power supply, so now it's on as opposed to last week. Okay, so we are talking Night of the Seven Kingdoms today. We've got some alien news. We've got some Hollywood drama news. It's going to be a great, great episode. So let's just jump right into A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Andrew, what are your initial thoughts? What are you feeling?
I am excited. I am a big fan of Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Read all the books. I saw all of the show.
How was the
I
Wisdom Winner, by the way?
I don't want to talk about it. Well, he's just going to die. I think actually he said recently, like, yeah, I'm not going to finish it. Is that accurate? Did you see that? That's a big bummer.
I saw a blurb, but I haven't seen him say it. But last thing, I think it's legit that he was just like, yeah, I'm not going to finish it.
Yeah. Like, it's unrealistic he was in 2020, he was like, yeah, I'm making some big, like, headway on this. And we're like, cool, next year or 2 years. It's been 5 years, and he just admitted that he can't do it. But I do like Game of Thrones. I like what he has. I watched the show after it all came out. I was not an OG show fan. I've not read the Tales of Dunk and Egg, which is what A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is based on. The story is essentially my favorite parts of Game of Thrones. The dragons are cool. Some of the magic stuff is cool, but ultimately I loved a knight like tromping through a medieval town with his best little buddy, just getting up to some fun stuff. And that's exactly what Tales of Dunk and Egg is about. There's 3 short stories. So it seems like they're taking those 3. I believe they're called The Sworn Sword, The Mystery Knight. Oh, no, the first one is The Hedge Knight, then The Sworn Sword, and then The Mystery Knight.
Yeah.
So they're kind of taking those 3 novellas that he published over the course of like 12 or 15 years. And they just go on what was called embarking upon great destinies and encountering powerful foes and outrageous exploits. So seems like it's just going to be a fun time. The show, from the like 5-6 second clips that we got from that HBO Max, like, what's coming to Max? It looks cool. I think that what's his name? The guy who's playing Sir Duncan,
Peter Calfee.
Peter Claffey. I think he looks great. That's basically what I imagined when I like read about Sir Duncan the Tall. So, what do you think? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I am also a Game of Thrones fan. I was an OG because I'm ancient compared to you.
Ooh. Yeah, you're like 52 now, right?
Yeah, I'm an old man. My knees pop when I stand, you know. One squat I do a day, or the one crunch I do a day is getting out of bed.
Like Rice Krispies.
Like Rice Krispies. So no, I did see it as it was coming out, which was quite the experience. I had not read the book. And so the ending of season 1 of Game of Thrones, I was one of those people that was just like, no way. Like, it's crazy. That was super fun. And then I did start reading, I think A Dance of Dragons is when I started reading the book first and then watching the show. And obviously the show overtook the books.
Yeah.
And I think what's really happened with George Martin is he kind of got, I want to say, like, he almost got discouraged by Hollywood, by,
I think so.
like, how the last season ended and how people received it. And I think that was his plan. I think the show ended how the book series was supposed to end, and a lot of people hated it. And so he was kind of like, what do I do now? And I think that's what's really
got to rewrite 2 huge books.
I think it kind of gutted.
Yeah, that's a good take, Heath. I'm worried that he didn't have a plan. And that's encouraging that you think he maybe shared some major plot points of his plan with the showrunners, and they tried it out and it didn't go well, and he was like, "Ooh, that's not my ending."
Yeah.
Genuinely, I don't think that he has like an ending. I think that there is much less of a book written than we hope that there is.
Yeah.
Because if he was discouraged by Hollywood, to me, that would mean he would stop working with Hollywood. But that's all he's doing now. This is the 3rd Game of Thrones, like, in post-production, about to come out show about his story. So it seems like that's all he's doing is just Hollywood stuff. So
that's true. Maybe discouraged by Hollywood wasn't the best thing. I think he was just discouraged by that series. And I feel like Yeah. C.S. Lewis had a great quote when he was like, when the story stops telling itself in my head, I know it's done. And so when he finished the last battle in the Chronicles of Narnia, he's like, there's no more story in my head. Like, there's nothing, you know. And I think, unfortunately, George R.R. Martin is just like, the Game of Thrones main story, like, I just don't think it's there anymore. I don't think he has, you know, that ability. And it's like, why force something? You're right. If he's doing awesome things, like, he did all the character work and backstory for Elden Ring, and he did Dance of the Dragons is doing well. And then we have this show. And yeah, I think it's a bummer because I feel like the showrunners for the original Game of Thrones, Benioff and Weiss, I think what happened is they were done, and they kind of just rushed it and tried to wrap it up. And I think that's what people were really disappointed by. And we don't need to keep talking about Game of Thrones, but I think that's kind of what happened there. And I really wish, the last thing I'll say about Game of Thrones, and if you have something, you can do that. And then we'll get to A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I really wish that they would retcon stuff. And you had made a statement a while ago. It's like, what would get people back to the movie theaters in droves? And I think if you had a movie, a Game of Thrones movie of like the last season of Game of Thrones does not exist. We're going to make a movie with all those actors. This would never happen. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Make it the Martin cut.
Yeah. And just release it as like a 3-hour movie and just like, I don't know, just do a different story. I would love to see that. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
That then it's all the problems of could they even stick that landing, you know, because like I don't care about the Justice League in general. Snyder cut, Whedon cut, I don't care. Like, it's not like it saved it. It's still the same property, you know? So
it's still dead.
I don't know. And I know there's some people out there that they have their cut and they're like, this is awesome. And like, that's cool. But
man,
you do you. But...
Yeah. I will say, moving on to A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, what's really encouraging for me as a fan is the 2 directors. So it's going to release this year. There are 6 episodes. The first 3 episodes are going to be directed by Owen Harris. And I know Owen Harris. I remember Owen Harris. I don't know him from Black Mirror episodes. He did Be Right Back, Striking Vipers, and San Junipero, which are 3 of my favorite Black Mirror episodes. So if he brings that kind of style and like amazing like shock value directing to a Game of Thrones story that seems more laid back than Game of Thrones, that's at least that's how the vibe of the books seems to be, is a more like meandering tale that's a little bit sillier. If you can bring that kind of direction and writing to Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I think it's going to be great. And then the director for the last 3 is also encouraging, Sarah Adina Smith. I was not familiar with any of the film or TV work that she'd done, but she does have an Outstanding Directorial Achievement Award for her work on the Apple TV show Lessons in Chemistry. So she's a well-regarded director. Like, she's proven that she's got the stuff to do it. So I think having great directors and great writers is 70% of a good show. You know, if you have an actor that slips up and it maybe wasn't the best casting, we can get over that. But if the dialogue and the whole story is written poorly, then you just lose everybody. So I'm excited. It'll be good.
Yeah. So I actually have read The Hedge Knight and the Sworn Sword.
Cool.
So all 3 of these, and then the Mystery Knight, these are graphic novels. And yeah, so I've read the first 2 and I really enjoyed them. And you're right, it is more of a concentrated story. It's more of as opposed to Game of Thrones, which is following sometimes 7, 10, 12 main characters, or different even storylines, different continents. This is focusing more on Sir Duncan and Aegon, who they call Egg because he's bald. But why is he bald? I was about to give away a spoiler, but I was just like, just ask yourself, why do you think he's bald? But you could probably.
I do know why he's bald, but we shouldn't say it. Yeah.
Right. I was gonna say, if you don't, that's one of those things. I don't care about spoilers that much. I'm more about a visual spoiler. Like, I don't want to watch trailers too much because I used to do that. I'm like, I want the visuals to be really surprising to me. But yeah, we will not spoil certain things like that. So. So yeah, I think it's kind of cool because honestly, it kind of, not humor-wise, but it feels kind of like A Knight's Tale to me. It's focusing on a tournament knight who's wandering from city to city, you know, kind of like, and different things happen to him. Very episodic, a lot more of like a standard TV show, I'd say, than even like Game of Thrones, because it's like, what's going to happen in the next town, you know, things like that. But it's really a well-written, the graphic novels I highly recommend, and they touch on main events. So like nothing, it's not the level of Dance of Dragons, you know, with House of the Dragon show, or Game of Thrones, where everything it's kind of a time of peace, but there's always struggle because there's 7 kingdoms, you know. But this is definitely more of like, you do meet and interact with main dynasties as well. So like, this is not just going to be just back alley or countryside stuff.
Right.
But it seems to be the
I feel like
of a night like that.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and that's exactly what the fan base wants whenever you get some sort of new story addition to the world that they know. I say this all the time. It has to look and sound like that universe we're familiar with. If it's going to be Star Wars, it has to look and sound like Star Wars, and you can do almost anything. If it's Game of Thrones, it has to look and sound like Game of Thrones, and you can tell me any story you want. But when he runs into someone at a tavern and they happen to be like a Stark, like his eyes should get big, right? Because we all know he knows, you know, like
right.
That kind of stuff. It's the lived-in universe that we're familiar with. So
yeah, that is very interesting because when it's made into a show, it becomes its own property, and it's like, you're right. Now we kind of know what Game of Thrones looks, feels, sounds like.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see this kind of property. And I think each property, same thing with Star Wars, is like they can push it, which is awesome. And you want to push it, but then you don't want to push it too far to where it doesn't feel like any, what you know anymore. But Game of Thrones, I think, it came at a time when it's like the opposite of Lord of the Rings in the same fantasy thing. Like, one is heroic, epic, It just has a clear sense of right and wrong. We know who the bad guys are.
People rise to the occasion.
Yes. And Game of Thrones is such that political intrigue, betrayal, backbiting.
Yeah.
There is no one righteous. No, not one.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I was about to say another spoiler if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, but I'm going to be spoiler free today, baby. I don't know why.
Honestly,
I'm just encouraged to be spoiler free.
I think that the only reservation for these shows, we'll talk about them all in general, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, and now A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. The only reason I would tell someone, yeah, don't watch it, is if you just can't handle violence, like blatant violence. And like some of you may be listening to this right now and being like, of course I can't handle blatant, useless violence. Ew. Like, great. Then it's not for you. But like, if you're someone who can watch a movie or a show and the violent aspects of it don't disturb you typically, then these shows are like amazing narrative storytelling. They tell some of the most compelling stories. It is really sad. It is very depraved, but they really, really in. So
yeah,
far that goes for most anything for that they do. So.
And it's interesting because I do feel like Star Wars is kind of even more branched out between content of ages. Like they have the Ewok movies all the way to like Andor. And I'm like, those are very different. Like those are not all the same age appropriate. But I think, Game of Thrones, all these shows are very adult. There's adult content, language. And if one of them is too much for you, I expect the same, in this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, it's rumored, it's said to be out in 2025. A lot of people are assuming late, probably fall. At the point of recording this, we have not had a trailer yet. We had a little teaser within a trailer of a few different shows. But George R.R. Martin has stated that he's seen all 6 episodes, and he believes this is a faithful adaptation. So that's pretty cool. That's like...
Cool, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that's good to hear, but also I'm so bitter towards him. I'm like, I don't care about your opinion, George. Give me a book.
You created this, but get out of here.
Yeah. Thanks, dude. Now leave.
Yeah, exactly. So, so it was co-created and the executive produced by Martin and Ira Park. So they're also acting as showrunners. I believe it's Ira Park has produced a lot, and he's also involved with House of the Dragon and things like that. And I think it's Matt Park. I don't know. I couldn't find anything on them. I don't know if they're brothers, if they're lovers. I have no idea. I really have
also
no
maybe
idea. So it was just kind of like, but they have the same last name. Maybe it's a crazy coincidence.
Hey man, if they're super into Game of Thrones, they could be brothers and lovers.
Yep. The Game of Thrones way. They're like, we know the perfect showrunner for this. Like,
you're never going to believe who we found for this.
But yeah, they did a lot of cool stuff. So, it's Ira that I don't know anything about. Matt. Oh, no, that's the wrong guy. I apologize. I'm reading the last thing.
Does Matt exist?
Ira Park. He's written on a lot. He's done House of the Dragon, The Last Ship, The Nevers, produced a lot. The Synthesizer, Better Things, like fairly well-known things. This is definitely the same. He's done a lot, but never been like a showrunner. And the same thing with kind of like his new kind of team guy that he's brought on. That there's like, this is something new. So it's kind of like, that makes me a little nervous that this is the first showrunner / director kind of thing, because a showrunner is almost acts as the director of the movie, and those individual directors definitely have their own flair, because you can see like The Mandalorian. I always like the Bryce Dallas Howard episodes that she directs, but then you can see the quality of when it's like the overall showrunner of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. So yeah, that's all I have to say about The Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I'm excited for it. We'll keep it, up to date with when it's coming out. But yeah, we're looking at fall 2025. So what you got? After that? You have anything more to say about that?
No, man. I'm pretty excited. I think it'll be good. I'm definitely watching it, That's all.
Yeah. Well, next up, we have some Colleen Hoover talk.
Wow.
I found this was interesting, especially as we were talking about George R. R. Martin and kind of just like the whole idea of being a part of Hollywood when you're a writer. And obviously, we've done several episodes on Brandon Sanderson properties that we want to see turned into movies or shows, things like that. So there is, I don't know if you know about this, Andrew, but there's a lawsuit going on between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, who they produced and starred in It Ends With Us, the Colleen Hoover adaptation. We don't need to get into that. There's some serious allegations. Lawsuits are going from both sides. It kind of feels almost like a Johnny Depp, Amber Heard thing, where it's like both sides are like, no, you kind of thing. And we don't need to get into that here. If that's why you tune into your Feaster presentation, I'm sorry, you're going to be disappointed. But so what happened is Colleen Hoover, after all this started happening, she deleted all of her social media presence entirely. It's 100% gone. And then there was a rumor that she just like quit writing. Like, I'm done. So that's a rumor.
She's like big. She's huge.
There's no official thing. And it's also been stated too that that's actually a rumor and she's not quitting. She's just taking a social media break. And what I found interesting and sad is like, as an author, when your book is being made into a movie, the movie comes out, received well, made money. We did a bonus episode on it because my wife and her friend Katie went to see it, and then they came back home and I was like, let's just throw you on the pod, and see what you guys have to say about that. My favorite is when I surprise Andrew with bonus episodes because he's like, did I watch It Ends With Us and record an episode?
I'm like, wait, was I asleep for this? What's going on?
I don't remember. I have no memory of this place. But so there's rumors flying around about that, and it's a shame to see it. But if she's done writing, if Colleen Hoover is done writing, regardless, it's sad to me that situation has happened, and also possibly might deter an author to be like, I want to be done with this. Similar, very different things. I'm not trying to put down any type of like sides or the seriousness of the allegations, but putting down a property because of negative things surrounding it, kind of like George Martin with like, just like the negative feedback kind of seems like it kind of killed that story for him. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
If a book adaptation gets more people into the theater, that's amazing. And vice versa. If movie lovers watch a book adaptation and that gets them to read, that's a win. I love that. Like, doesn't matter the genre. But yeah, you're right. When Hollywood, in a general sense, because I don't know anything about this situation, but when Hollywood kind of sinks its teeth into someone, like the person who's responsible for the property and not the drama, and it like potentially can chew you up and spit you out, that's really discouraging. Like, she's a really well-known author, and she is the reason that a lot of people got back into reading in their adult life. Like, there's a lot of good that comes from her books. So
yeah, it is a bummer to see kind of that that happened to a writer. I know that would be my desire if I was an author, to be like, oh, I'd love it if somebody made a movie of this, and Pierce Brown. But
Pierce, please do it. Pierce, please, Mr. Brown.
Please, Mr. Brown. Something that cracks me up. So we're referring to Red Rising, the book series. Something that cracks me up, if you ever are on the website for like the merch for Red Rising, he models his own shirts.
Yeah, because he's jacked. He's such a fit dude.
He's not a bad looking dude, but it cracks me up because you know him as the author and you watch interviews and you go on his website and then he's like tank top, like all like,
it just flexes in his arms.
It cracks me up. Like, yeah, it's like, hey,
dude,
you work out and you want to show it, you do you. But
yeah, he writes it and he sells it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think he might be one that would like write a whole very successful book series like he has, model his merch, and if a movie ever came around, he'd be like, not the main character, but like a recurring character
Yeah.
in all of the movies. It'd be like, oh yeah, Jimmy over there.
Yeah.
He's always tagging along with us, and he's like flexing. Hey guys,
Mid flex, and every time the camera whip pans over to him, he's just like,
huh? What? Catch me working out again. What?
it'd be hilarious if they did that on purpose, and like every movie, he's in it.
He's like a
but as
Stan Lee,
different
but he's working
character.
out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, he's always working out, but he's always like a different color. And so he's like, with Red Rising, they have the cast, kind of like a cast system, I guess, of like different colors. He's like always a different character, but he still looks exactly the same, just like different color
same
hair or
body,
something. And he's always
same-
like working out. Oh, that's so
fun.
great. All right. Well, moving on from Colleen Hoover. So I guess the message is, read books, watch the movies.
If I've heard it said, if you lift weights, a ton, you need to read more books. If you read books a ton, you need to lift more weights. And I would say a similar thing about movies. If you only watch movies, read a book. Like, get a book or two for a year and just give it a shot. And vice versa. If you read books constantly and you don't get to the movie theater, go see a movie,
But as
Explore.
Michael Gary Scott once said, you can't learn from books. That's
Did he
an
say
Office
that?
reference. He did say that.
I hate The Office.
I know you hate it. I love it. I love The Office, and I love that you hate it. All right, so let's move on to something that has your heartstrings. Alien Earth.
Dude.
TV show is coming out, and the timeline is confusing us. Andrew, what do you got?
Ladies and gentlemen, I like to point out, if you watch our full video show, you'll see I have a new bookshelf over here that Heath did not notice. Super rude. However, I have the Alien Romulus one-off comic that was released prior to the movie. It is essentially a context comic a few hours before Alien Romulus kicks off, and with my movie ticket inside of the plastic. On display, watch our full video show. You can see all my cool little knickknacks around here. Alien Earth takes place 2 years before Alien 1979, the original. So Alien 1979 takes place in 2122. Alien Earth is 2120. The plot at this point that we know is very minuscule, and honestly, it's this is what it is. You can decide. It says a young woman and a ragtag team of tactical soldiers discover the greatest threat to the planet. Now, this is one of a couple synopses around the internet. It sounds a lot like Aliens to me. I'm a little hesitant because if it's Aliens restamped, like just copy paste over, I think there'll be a lot of backlash because the negativity that I heard about Alien Romulus, which I loved, was the moments that were kind of taken from other Alien movies and put into Alien Romulus as like fan service. So if this movie ends up being largely fan service, you liked Aliens, here's Aliens if it was on Earth, I think it will be a fail, which is a big bummer. But I'm still hopeful. I don't believe at this point that it will fail. I think that Fede Alvarez's movie, mixed with the popularity of Alien Isolation in 2012, that video game, like new stories and new characters, compels them, hopefully, will compel them to tell some new stories. And the fact that it's on Earth, I think is cool. What are your thoughts, Heath?
We already have the perfect alien property that took place on Earth. And it's called Alien versus Predator. Okay.
2. Alien versus Predator 2.
Requiem. This Christmas season, there will be no peace on Earth. We know this. We know.
Do both Alien versus Predators take place on Earth, correct?
They do. So I think those would be completely decanonized at this point.
Well, yeah, naturally.
Because it has to be.
Not in our hearts.
Not in our hearts. So what year did you say Alien Earth takes place?
So Alien Earth takes place in 2120. Alien, the first movie ever, takes place in 2122. So this is how I think they're going to tie it in. Weyland-Yutani encounters the alien, the xenomorph, or something like it, some sort of off-brand or different interpretation of a xenomorph. They encounter that as a life form because it crashes on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, we have to get this. Like, oh, look at this cool, crazy thing that we could barely kill. We have to like push our hands out into the galaxy, find this, weaponize it. Classic Weyland-Yutani thing. So then 2 years later, they send that message to the Nostromo, and they're like, okay, we found one. You guys have to go pick it up because our recovery mission didn't work when we were trying to get it, first time. So that's kind of what I'm anticipating. I don't know. I don't think that they would bring in Prometheus and Covenant people like David. That would be cool if he had something going on. If he like came back and was like, hey guys, I created a life form or something. I don't know how you would do that, but yeah.
So I think there's a lot of conflicting stuff I'm seeing. I don't think we're going to know the answer until we get the show. And I feel like the first opening scene is probably going to tell us a year, and that'll be the answer.
Yeah.
Because you just stated that 2120 is when Alien Earth takes place. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be before Alien, the original movie, and everything that comes after. Correct?
Uh-huh.
So I actually also have a timeline that says Alien Earth takes place in 2092, which would be before everything else.
That'd be before Prometheus.
Right. So I don't think that's true. I mean, it's several sources have reported that, but I don't think it's true because if we're sticking to the movies, like the Ridley Scott, because that's another thing too, is Ridley Scott directed the original movie and directed Prometheus and Covenant. So the only way Alien Earth could take place before Prometheus is if Prometheus doesn't exist anymore, because that's when they created the actual xenomorph.
He creates the perfect organism. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the Earth can't know about it before he creates it.
Right. So I believe I'm on board with what you're saying. I'm just saying that there is some confusion.
I gotcha. Yes.
Yeah. That's like, there is some misinformation going out there. So, hey, if you're an Alien fan, please be careful. There's a lot of misinformation going on there. Protect yourself.
Watch where you're stepping.
Hold your loved ones tight. Go watch Alien. So I believe the correct timeline is Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Alien Earth, Alien Romulus, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection.
Correct.
Yeah. So, and I think that would make the most sense that Alien Earth is after Prometheus and Covenant. And it doesn't really quite matter, I guess, Alien Romulus as well. It's like, it could be happening at the same time. Like, we know a xenomorph, and if you want to go in that line, like, obviously Romulus is very much tied to Alien. But there could be also room for that. I would just love if David showed up. Maybe he's never going to show up, but I hope he does. And maybe he'll show up in the Romulus sequel that they've talked about as well. But I would just love it if we because Prometheus and Covenant are pretty much non-connected. We don't know how they connect, I guess, at this point.
Right. They didn't finish that story, which is a big bummer. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a big bummer. So, but yeah, I think we're both really excited about Alien Earth, and I think it's going to be a great project. And I joke, but I really do love Alien versus Predator. I think they're fun.
Yeah.
They are the fun versus movies, and I think Alien never really drops that much in quality. At worst, it's campy fun. So we haven't had a lot of bad Alien properties. I mean, I think Resurrection and AVP 2 Requiem would be the worst. And I still think they're fun, and I still watch them,
Yeah. Man. I think I would watch AVP over Requiem, I think. Which is, maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot with that one. I don't know.
What do you mean?
Like I was agreeing. Like I think, did you also say the same thing? Like I would watch Alien versus Predator over Alien Requiem.
Oh yeah, I hate
because it's way more fun.
I should
Yeah,
say
like
hate because I just said I still don't care. No, but I hate it. No, Requiem.
it is
Alien versus Predator.
It has
Requiem.
the one with the most hate. Yeah,
Yeah, I just really struggle with it. It feels so. It's the humans to me because I'm like, humans do things. We've talked about this on our Alien episodes. Check out our Alien ranked movies episode.
Hey, there you go.
I really struggle with it because humans are just so ridiculous and over the top in that. It's just like they make choices that I just don't understand, and I feel like that's where horror gets really messy. It's like when the people in trouble make decisions that no one would ever make. You
can't connect with it.
Yeah, it's hard. All right. Well, sweet. Moving on from Alien Earth, which we are excited about. You know, Andrew, sometimes life gets too negative, and I think sometimes too controversial, and I think we've expressed hot takes, and
yeah, it's true.
Let's not do that. Let's not do any hot takes.
Let's dial it back, buddy.
Let's chill it out.
Yeah, chill. Put an ice cube in those hot takes.
Yeah.
Welcome to our new segment, Cold Takes.
Cold Takes. Explain what we're doing.
Okay, so I'm going to express a generally well-held opinion. Most people think this. Heath is going to disagree or agree. Most likely agree. I hope so, because most people think this. And we'll chat about why people maybe feel like that, why we feel that way. And it's all good vibes, man. It's all cool, good stuff. So are you ready for the first one, Heath? Oh, I can't hear you anymore.
I apologize. I was on mute.
Nice.
I said probably the most profound thing ever on this
We'll
podcast. It was podcast gold, but it'll never happen again. So let's do it. Cold takes. Here we go.
Okay. Cold take. Number 1, iRobot is a bad book adaptation, but a great movie.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen iRobot? Will Smith?
Oh, I thought you said Bad Robot.
No, iRobot.
Okay, say that again. Say your cold take again.
Okay, cold take number 1, Heath. You got your headphones on?
Am I muted?
iRobot is a bad book adaptation, but a great movie.
Interesting. So I have not read the book, but I did love the movie.
Okay. Yeah, it's such a fun movie. Like, there's a lot going for it. Will Smith is at, like, peak swagger. Like, he's the coolest guy you've ever seen in there. It just looks really cool. I think it was, what year was it? 2004, 2003? Or earlier, maybe. Yeah. But honestly, a terrible book adaptation. So iRobot, Isaac Asimov's iRobot, is a bunch of short stories, and they're all connected with this like sentient AI robot theme. Obviously, it seems like, oh, that's the same thing, right? Wrong. They all go through like really interesting, like a diverse set of scenarios, basically, where a short story will talk about one conflict in how humans are dealing with the AI robots in this sense, but then it'll shift that short stories over and it'll go over to a different topic. So like economics, farming, global warming, politics, and it just talks about like so many different things just in short little snippet short stories. So it's not as interesting of a read as iRobot is interesting of a movie.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
I accept it.
Great.
It reminded me, honestly, when you're talking about short stories, it reminded me of Stephen King's Children of the Corn, because that is also a short story. And it's so funny because I think there's literally 7 sequels. There's a ton. They just started making movie after movie.
Really?
And a lot of them are straight to video, kind of like Hellraiser.
Yeah.
And just kind of like they just kind of divulged back down into that, which, I've talked about it before. I'm big fans of With Gorley and Rust. It's a horror podcast. Mm-hmm. And they talked about like sometimes those movies have so many sequels and they go to straight to video or streaming, and it's like I wonder if it'll ever come back to be like the 8th Hellraiser movie or the whatever we're gonna
debuts
come back
in theaters.
to
Yeah.
theater. Yeah. All right, next cold take.
Okay. Cold take number 2. I think this is a fact. You can learn a lot about a person when they tell you what movie they feel the most nostalgia for. And honestly, you can learn some of the most important things to learn about a person when they tell you what movie they're the most nostalgia for.
Interesting. I feel like it says more about age than personality.
Yeah, but there's so many different types of movies in each decade. Because
Do you
I
have
think
some
this
examples?
Yeah, like I mean, if you ask my Uncle John, who was born in the 70s, raised like early 80s, he would say his most nostalgic movie is The Goonies. There's lots of movies that he could have chosen from the 80s. He was growing up as a kid in high school, like during the 80s. He could have picked a lot of different types of movies, but The Goonies stuck out to him, and that tells me that he is a lighthearted, funny, fun-loving guy. Like he's pretty much always like just having a good time. Here we are, right? And I love that question. I think because you're right, because it's so age specific for certain types of movies, you can kind of guess. But inside of those decades, there's always so many different types of movies that tells you about that person.
Yeah, I can see that too. Like the movie that you're nostalgia for was probably a rewatch and a mini rewatch.
Absolutely,
You know,
yeah.
It's just like
Because like nostalgia, I feel like nostalgia is just like an overwhelming positive emotion. You have a lot of emotions connected to this thing, and so that's why you feel nostalgic toward it. So one of my most nostalgic movies is Attack of the Clones, and it's also tied with one of my favorite movies ever, which is Spider-Man. Those share really deep positive emotions for me, but it also, I feel like, tells you a lot about my personality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, so the original Spider-Man, is that right?
Yeah, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Yeah. Sometimes I look back at those years, those 2000s. So I was prime in those years. You were a little younger, obviously. You're decades younger than I am. But,
dude,
you know, we talk about, I think 2001 stuck out to me so much because that was Harry Potter, Fellowship of the Ring, and Halo Combat Evolved all came out that year. But then, 2002, you're right, Attack of the Clones, Spider-Man, The Two Towers, like, and then 2003, and it's just like, man, those years were just like, they just start coming and they don't stop coming, you know? Hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart, but your head gets dumb.
dumb?
So much to say. So what's wrong with taking the back
That was
seat?
good. You really snuck that one in there.
Oh, hey now. You're an all-star. Also, I don't know about you. Talking about nostalgia, every time I hear All-Star, which I hear it a lot, Shrek.
Oh, okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Every single time. For sure. Shrek. It's,
Yeah.
also, when you said that about your uncle, I immediately heard Power of Love by Huey Lewis in my head. It's like,
nice.
born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s. It's like, don't need money, don't need fame, don't need a credit card, ride this train. Great. All right. Next cold take.
Well, all right. Last cold take. Third and last.
The last.
Harrison Ford will never do anything bad. Movie-wise. I don't know him personally.
Well, he killed a guy in real life.
I knew it.
Wow. Okay, so there's a movie that I disagree with you. I think he has done bad. Have you seen Cowboys versus Aliens?
Yes, I did.
I felt, to me, that was peak Harrison Ford grumpy man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was older and he was acting like an old grump. And I think after that point, he came back around to be like, he's still an old man, but like, his Han Solo, he still had some charisma and I feel like Cowboys vs. Aliens, he was just a grump. And I feel like that's who Harrison Ford is off the screen. So I feel like to me, that was like, it was too much like, this is just you, man, being a grumpy old man. So, but that's just my thoughts.
Wow. Yeah. I think that Harrison Ford and Daniel Craig are on par with each other for acting in that movie. Like, they both acted pretty well in a not serious movie. So my qualifier next sentence for this cold take is that it doesn't matter to me what bad movie Harrison Ford is in, because he's in a number of them, a few. He will be the best part of it. So that's what I mean. He will never do bad because he is such a consistent character. Like, Harrison Ford plays Harrison Ford for the most part. And if a movie is bad, he will be the diamond in the rough. Like, that movie sucked, but Harrison Ford was more in it.
In the rough.
Aladdin. I was doing
what a deep cut.
Who disturbs my slumber?
I can't do that right now. I'll call you.
So, for example, I'm totally going to ignore all of that stuff you said. Man, I hate Aladdin. I'm just kidding.
Arabian night, like Arabian night.
Whoa.
I'm waiting for you to come back and be like, are you done? Are you done now? Can I continue the pod?
I'm off the pod. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was a bad movie. Sorry. But Harrison Ford was the best part of that whole movie, and he was absolutely surrounded by just a litany of silly things happening. And he was just the greatest the whole time.
He had to sell the line, what is it? They weren't after treasure. They were after knowledge. Knowledge was their treasure.
I was like, dude, I freaking believe you. You got it.
As a movie fan, I always thought about, your favorite actor. How fun would that be to just like hang out with Harrison Ford and sit down and watch Indiana Jones, but he's the kind of guy.
Watch his movie with him.
Yeah. Be nuts.
Ew.
That's too much.
I would hate that. That'd be so disgusting.
Okay, let me reframe it. Just like talk that movie with him. Talk Indiana Jones. Like, have him on the pod and talk about the movie. But he's expressed how he hates that, and I think he is a true like actor, like almost like what you would call like a thespian. That they love acting. That's the craft. They don't like being in movies. They like acting, portraying the character, and that makes good actors, but it's also funny because I think those are the people. I would say, who's Oppenheimer? Boy, I'm blanking on.
Cillian Murphy?
Yes, I would say he's the same way. I don't think he loves interviews. I don't think he loves, being surrounded by fans. I think he loves acting and he loves making movies. And I think those are the best actors, I would say. But it's interesting to see someone like Harrison Ford who doesn't necessarily like that. But I guess I just bring it up because I find that kind of connected to that point about like he's always good. It's like because that's what he loves. He's not in it to. I can't wait to go to Comic-Con after this and come out on stage and take off my Dr. Doom mask and have everybody cheer. Okay, that's not why he's in it. He's in that for like the movie. He doesn't want to do press. He's just like, what's the next project, So, well,
so cool.
I think it's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on my podcast. I really appreciate you, buddy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Next week. What?
I was just gonna keep going for no reason. It's been a great.
Shut it down. You shut me down. I'm gonna shut you down. Get off.
So anyway.
Next week we have top 5 superhero movies. These are our favorite superhero movies. We have 2 lists. We're going to go head to head. Whose list is better? We'll vote on it. That'd be sweet.
Mine.
Mine. Mine.
Spoiler, my number one is Finding Nemo.
Oh, as a superhero movie. All right, let's see it.
Yeah.
Andrew, my friend, take us home.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for
Oh,
listening.
one more
Thank
thing,
you for
actually,
watching.
before I go. I did want to
You can always find our show on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. Full video YouTube, full video Spotify. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and I believe you can also follow on Spotify too. Doing that helps us grow the channel, and interacting, commenting on videos, asking questions, and answering questions we might pose helps us grow, helps us know what you like to hear. What you like to hear. As always, go see a movie.
Go see a movie. This is one of those situations where, like, you know someone's going to have a fight when they go home. It's like, oh, they're totally going to have a fight in the car.
Dude,
On the way.
we're fighting right now, I think. Are we fighting?
We're fighting right now.
Finding Nemo's a superhero movie. That's the end of it.